Welcome to the Assembly Committee on Education. I apologize. That was a little stronger than maybe I needed to. I've just been preparing all week for the basketball game that is taking place today. And I know that the Donkeys are going to win, so I'm super excited. So welcome to the most educated committee in the Nevada State Legislature. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Assembly members De Silva, Dahlia, DeLong, Flanagan, Hanson, Hardy, Hunt, Koenig, LaRue Hatch, Mosca, Orentlicker, Chair Torres Fawcett.
And please mark Assemblymember Orentlicker absent, excused, and present when he arrives. Welcome to the audience here in Carson City. We have a fully packed room with members of the Wolf Pack, Go Pack. We're excited to welcome you all here at the University of Nevada Day. I'm not Commerce and Labor, so I'll allow the clapping just this once. Also welcome to those of us joining us in a very full room in Las Vegas. Go Rebels, I guess. And those of us joining us over video conference. Just a couple housekeeping items. Please remember to silence your electronic devices. If you wish to testify, please sign in at the table at the door and provide a business card to the committee staff. So if you have not yet signed in and you intend to speak today, please make sure that you sign in over there by the door where you see several university staff members standing, and that way we can make sure that you are registered to speak. That really helps our committee staff throughout the meeting, especially with it being such a packed room today. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state your name, spell your name, and state your affiliation, if any, each time that you speak. Then turn the microphone off each time that you are done speaking. Please provide any documents to the committee staff ahead of our meetings. Members of the public may provide testimony on a bill either in person or by telephone. Please see the meeting agenda for the telephone number and meeting ID. Meeting agenda and committee information is available on Nellis, which can be accessed through our legislature's website. You may also watch our meetings through Nellis or the legislature's YouTube channel. If you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please make sure that you do so today. We've seen subscribers slowly increase as the session goes on. Public comment will be taken at the end of the meeting. Each person will be limited to 2 minutes. We expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if we do not agree with another person's position. Committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents. Please do not view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention, but almost all of our documents for this committee are on our computers. At this time, I know we have a fully packed day, so just so members of the public and members with us today know, we are going to go ahead and go in order today. So that means we'll start with the presentation and go to the bills in order. So at this time, I will go ahead and invite Dr. Garcia and Ms. Houston up for a presentation on expanding access and awareness to future scholars.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. My name is Mariluz Garcia, and I first started working for the Dean's Future Scholars Program 21 years ago when it was only 4 years old. As a first-generation college student myself, I helped develop DFS's unique mentoring program, and I'm proudly served as the executive director for almost 13 years. Mentoring is the heart of the program, so I've brought some amazing team members of mine here to help tell about the work that we do.
Hi, my name is Manuel Ortiz. I'm the assistant director. Can you all hear me?
There we go.
My name is Manuel Ortiz. I am the assistant director of DFS, which is a dream come true because I was selected to participate in the program when I was in 6th grade as part of the second cohort. DFS is a homegrown program in the College of Education and Human Development, and our grassroots efforts has helped almost 2,000 students graduate from high school and achieve their dreams. About 80% of our budget comes from donations and grants, so we work closely with the University of Nevada, Reno Foundation to get the support that we need for our students. This is an important year for our program because we are celebrating our 25th year anniversary. And so we welcome you all to celebrate with us on Saturday, October 18th.
I have researched college access,
Please don't forget to state just state your name for the
Okay.
record.
Mariluz Garcia for the record. I've researched college access programs and first-gen initiatives throughout the country, and I haven't been able to find anything quite like DFS. We provide the typical services that we commonly see in the world of college access, but we've added our own special touch.
Manuel Ortiz for the record. DFS believes students must see it to be it. So we use a near-peer mentoring model where we use mentors who are college students to deliver all services to K-12 students during the academic school year and summer.
My name is Regina Aguilar Becerra for the record, and I just got accepted into my master's program of social work. And like Manny and I, 80% of the DFS mentors have been in the DFS program since the 6th grade. So from an early age, we're taught to give back to our community.
Samuel Rosales Rios for the record. My name is Sammy, that's how most people know me. I am the DFS school counselor. DFS is the only program in the state of Nevada that begins working with students in the 6th grade and stays with them through college completion. Students are recommended to DFS by Title I schools and are not required to meet GPA or testing requirements. Prior to being recommended, most students have never stepped foot on a college campus or even dreamed about what to do after high school. Regardless of their academic background, we put our students through a rigorous summer program where they can earn a year of math in 6 weeks or take a dual credit class to get ahead.
My name is Enrita Ibarra for the record, and I'm currently working on my second master's degree. We had 322 students attend last summer, and we even have a summer bridge program where graduating high school seniors can take 2 free UNR college courses and get a paid internship on campus or out in the community the summer before college starts.
My name is Victor Garcia Ruiz for the record. I have a master's in business administration and I am the DFS data specialist. This will be my 3rd year. This will be the 3rd year that DFS program has offered a high school study abroad program. We have had students study in Spain, Germany, Japan, South Korea, and Turkey. We are excited to add France to this list this summer.
Hi, my name's Erica Chavez for the record, and I am graduating next month from nursing school. We believe that parent engagement is really important, but we also go out of our way to plan large community events and resource fairs so that we can support more families who need help.
Hi, my name is Maria Perez Lepe for the record. I am studying biology and want to go into the medical field in order to help students develop confidence and strong relationships. DFS believes it's important to get students outside. We've taken our students whitewater rafting, snowshoeing, hiking, and on overnight trips.
Manuel Ortiz for the record. And on behalf of everyone at DFS, we first off want to thank you all for your public service and your commitment to education. Please let us know if you ever want to take a visit, see our summer program, take a look at our data, or even just see our students in action. There are many first-generation college students throughout the state of Nevada, so I hope you will continue to support all the amazing first-gen efforts taking place at the University of Nevada, Reno, and go Pack.
Go Pack. We'll take questions at the end. We're going to have Trio come up next, and then we'll take questions. Thank you. And while we transition, many members might not know that our legal counsel actually is a graduate from the University of Nevada, Mr. Killian as well. He's probably one of Nevada's finest alums.
Hello, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. Thank you very much for having us. My name is Ellen Houston. I'm the Executive Director of the First Generation Student Center at the University of Nevada, Reno.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jen Sims, and I'm the Upward Bound Math Science Director.
So the First Generation Student Center is comprised of 10 programs. We have 8 that are federally funded. 7 of those are federally funded TRIO programs. We have 4 Upward Bound Classic and Math Science programs, so 3 Upward Bound Classic, 1 Upward Bound Math Science. They serve 186 high school students, so those are our pre-college programs. We also have I'll go on with TRIO programs, sorry. We also have our TRIO Classic Scholars, which is a student support services program serving 186 undergraduate students. Our TRIO STEM Scholars, which serves 120 undergraduates, and our McNair Scholars, which serves 27 undergraduates in their second, third, and fourth years, and that program prepares them for doctoral study. We also have a Child Care Access Means Parents in School program, or C-Campus, and that pays for childcare at the Child and Family Research Center on campus for student parents, both undergraduate and graduate students. So we're able to do that for 16 students, and it pays for 100% of their childcare costs so that they can focus on school. We have a privately funded Fostering the Pack program, which serves, last year served 25 undergraduates who had formerly experienced foster care within the state of Nevada and were on the foster youth fee waiver for the university. And we have our First in the Pack program, which serves first and second year undergraduates. Last year we served 452. This year we're serving 502. And that program is institutionally funded at this time. We provide a variety of services. All of our programs, depends on the program exactly the services, but all of them provide access to tutoring, academic coaching, peer mentoring, co-curricular workshops, major and career development, experiential learning, and social events so that our students can find a sense of belonging. So you can see that last year, collectively, our 10 programs provided over 9,000 hours of one-on-one academic counseling and mentoring for our students. For our pre-college students, we have coordinators in the actual target schools, and we serve 8 target schools in Washoe and Lyon counties. We provide individual tutoring for our students, test preparation, literacy services, and last year we had 153 co-curricular events and workshops. We're serving nearly 1,100 students per year between our pre-college and college programs. The eligibility for our programs, all the students must be first gen, and for our federal programs also and or low income. But for First in the Pack, we can serve students who, we can serve all first generation students. So we last year had 100% high school graduation rate for our pre-college programs, a 95% collective retention rate for our college student programs. Our McNair Scholars completed 1,500 hours of undergraduate research, and as I said before, we paid for the child care to the cost of $180,000 for our students. It's really important to note that nationally, the 6-year graduation rate for first-generation college students that I just pulled this morning is 24%. So on this next slide, you can see that we are definitely beating that in all of our programs. So even in Upward Bound, which is a pre-college program, our students are going on for a 6-year college graduation rate at 67%. So when you see our federal objectives, those are what are written into our grant. That is the minimum that we should be meeting, but we are definitely not happy with that and maxing out as much as we can to keep all of our students in school and successfully achieving their dreams. So for all of our programs, I'll go through all these, and I think you can read them, and you have the handouts as well. We are far exceeding our federal objectives, and we actually have one of the longest running continuously funded Upward Bound grants in the entire nation. We've been funded since 1967, and our TRIO Classic program has been funded since 1969. So we have some of the longest running, most successful TRIO programs in the nation, and we're extremely proud of that. So I want to, we have a busload of students that should be here in 45 minutes. They're coming down for the rest of the evening and the pep rally and to meet with some of you, and thank you for that. So if you'd like to speak to them, but I think Jen can speak to some of their stories as well.
Jen Sims for the record. I am honored to be here with other first-gen champions like President Sandoval, Angie Taylor, Ellen Houston, Mariluz Garcia. I'm a first-generation student myself. I come from a lineage of restaurant and casino workers. My family loves and adores me. They understand the importance of education. However, it kind of ended there for me. And so thank goodness for a program that Ellen Houston was running at the University of Nevada, Reno in 2004. I attribute so much of my life success to that program. I wouldn't have made it through undergrad, let alone graduate school, if it hadn't been for the mentors, the peers, the resources, the guidance that that first gen program offered. So I can speak firsthand to the power and the impact that the smallest touch point of a first gen program can have in somebody's life. We're here today to share the impact of our programs and ask for continued support. Last week, I had another outstanding reminder of how our programs and TRIO works. So TRIO has been in operation for more than 50 years successfully. So as you can imagine, our record keeping and archiving is top notch with those type of records. So top notch that sometimes we keep records and forget that we had them. So our assistant director recently found a time capsule of letters to ourselves that students had written in 2013 and graduated from high school in 2017. So this is a picture of the letters right here. As I sifted through the names, one of the beautiful things about TRIO is once TRIO, always TRIO. And so we're still in contact with many of these students a decade later. We still are keeping track of them and know what they and their families are up to. So as I flipped through and I saw the 13-year-old chicken scratch writing their names on the envelopes, I already knew what they're up to today. And so as I flipped through, I was overcome with emotion as I saw this person I know now is a successful hospice social worker. This person is a doctor or a medical student who literally is taking her step 1 medical exam this past weekend. This student is a mental health provider. This student is or not even a student, these graduates are information technology experts, a digital media marketing professional, our very own Elle Woods down at Boyd Law School finishing up her law degree. An engineer by day, a DJ by night, an MBA student, and a digital forensic specialist that we just wrote a huge letter of recommendation for the Department of Defense. So if this isn't proof that TRIO works, I don't know what is. We ask that you see the undeniable impact of TRIO programs. Just like DFS, we would love for you to come see our students and meet our students. Again, they'll be here later this afternoon. They're holding a large-scale community symposium on August 1st, so if anyone is in town and free that evening, the students will be hidden throughout the Discovery Museum. Teaching different wellness strategies, and as you meet with the students, you punch your card. After you get your 9 punches, you get a free dinner. So we hope that everyone shows up and supports our students. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing all of that valuable information. So at this time, I'll invite members for any questions. If one of you want to stay up, just in case there's questions, and probably Dr. Garcia, there might be questions for you too. Thank you. Assemblymember Koenig.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I think it was pretty impressive. Ms. Garcia, this is geared towards you. Is now the Dean's Future Scholars, is that a program that's only available in Washoe County, or is that statewide? I mean, I'm mostly interested in, starting at 6th grade and taking them up to graduate to their program, but is that statewide or is that just in Washoe County? Because I've been around schools a lot and I've never heard of it, so I don't know.
Thank you for the question. Mariluz Garcia for the record. Dean's Future Scholars started 25 years ago with the idea from Dean Sparkman at the time, who wanted to increase the diversity of teachers, counselors, and administrators in the school district. He was a little bit before his time, seeing the changing demographics in the state of Nevada. So this idea actually came from him 25 years ago. That said, it's an idea that could be replicated at other institutions of higher education, and we would welcome any collaboration or future conversations in that regard.
Assemblymember DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple questions directed to the TRIO. One is, you had said a 95% retention rate. Is that between first and second year or first year to graduation?
Last year, that was
I apologize if you could please state your name.
Ellen Houston for the record. That was all of the students in our program, and then those that came back the following year. So we actually track from the time they enter the program until the time they graduate.
So it's a year-to-year number.
Year to year, yes.
Okay, thank you.
correct.
And then just a quick follow-up. Looks like TRIO's an acronym. What's it stand for?
Ellen Houston for the record. It stands for TRIO. I know that sounds strange, but it's not actually an acronym. It started with, it came out of Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty, and there were initially, it started with Upward Bound, and then they saw with much the same idea that when he had worked in education down in Texas, he felt like at that time as a teacher, he couldn't do much for students, but as president, he could. And so it was aimed at low-income students. Then when they got to college, they suddenly realized We need to keep this going. They started the Student Support Services program. That's what we call our TRIO scholars and TRIO STEM scholars. And then they also added another program later on. There are now actually 8 federal TRIO programs, but they still call it TRIO. So it is a little bit confusing. But it just stands for TRIO.
Assemblymember Mosca.
Thank you. I want to thank the chair for hearing this today. As a fellow first gen who's done all this work also down south, I just appreciate all that you do and all your partnership with President Sandoval and all the programs. And so my question for Ms. Garcia is, I know the Nevada First Gen Network was funded through this body and had pretty amazing outcomes, and would love if you could just share about that on the record and how that was a statewide collaborative process for our state.
Thank you for the question. Mariluz Garcia for the record. And I got to give you a shout out as the founder of Leaders in Training down in Las Vegas. A tremendous amount of respect for what you built and the idea you brought to the table in the South. So thank you for your work. I was honored to get the phone call from Senator Heidi Seavers-Ganser at the time saying, there's $4 million coming your way to support first-generation college students in the aftermath of COVID. And as you can imagine, my head started to spin, and I immediately thought about the rural communities, the smaller school districts, the first-gen professionals that are out there in the state that don't have the opportunity to get those phone calls. So I stood up an umbrella organization called the Nevada First Gen Network. It was built by first gen students, run by first gen students. I have the program coordinator in the back right there. And what we did is we started off with a statewide needs assessment. So our team contacted over 80 programs throughout the state of Nevada, and we then launched a micro grant program. So we were able to disseminate $2.5 million of that award to the programs who needed it the most. And these mini micro grants supported things that dealt with food insecurity, tutoring, mentorship, all of the things outlined in the bill. So I just wanted to say thank you for the question again, and thank you for investing in Nevada students. As I said earlier in my comments, there are so many first generation college students in the state of Nevada, and if we want to see upward social mobility, we need to invest in programs like ours.
Assemblymember Luberhatch.
Thank you, Chair. As a teacher, I've had students that are Dean's Future Scholars and TRIO scholars and Upward Bound participants, and it's been incredible for every single one of them to see the progress that they've made. And I have one of them who was a TRIO scholar, and now he's going on to get his master's, and I just cannot be more proud of him. My question actually, I think, was just answered. I was going to ask about the statewide support for First Gen, so I guess I'm just saying thank you so much for your work, and I see it.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? There's no additional questions at this time. Thank you so much for the presentation, for all the work that you do to help inspire the next generation of hopefully some future lawmakers, and doctors and engineers and teachers and social workers. I've known many graduates from the program too, and I think it's phenomenal. Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is SB 293, which revises provisions relating to intercollegiate athletics. So at this time, I'll go ahead and open the hearing on SB 293. And thank you for coming and joining us here in Assembly Education, the hardest working committee in the legislature. Please begin when you're ready, Senator Lang.
Thank you so much, and I'm so happy to be back here. As many of you know, I'm a retired teacher and coach, and today I'm going to be talking to you about NIL, which is name, image, and likeness. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it on the news, and what schools and athletes are facing in this. I am from Las Vegas. I represent Senate District 7, which is in the central part of Las Vegas, across the street from UNLV, all the way east. I want to talk to you a little bit about the background of this bill and where it came from and why we're at this place today. The legislature considered a bill in 2021. It was Assembly Bill 254. It was by Speaker Frierson. It prohibits certain higher education institutes or National Collegiate Athletic Association, often referred to as NC2A, from preventing student athletes from receiving compensation for the use of their NIL or from obtaining professional services with certain exceptions. Compensating student athletes for those components when it relates to official activities of the institution of the NC2A. Altering student athletes' scholarship awards due to such compensation, and disallowing the students' participation in intercollegiate sports for such compensation or use of services. This legislation also prohibits the NC2A from preventing the institution itself from participating in the NC2A for that same reason. Additionally, Assembly Bill 254 authorized student athletes to enter into a contract with an outside entity for compensation as long as it did not conflict with the contract between the student athlete and the institution in which the athlete enrolled, and if the student athlete met certain responsibilities. And finally, the bill required that an interim study concerning collegiate bylaws and state and federal laws related to compensating student athletes for the use of their NIL. So during the 21-22 interim, I served as vice chair of that interim study. During its 4 meetings, and Eric was also on that committee with me. And during those 4 meetings, the committee to conduct the interim study concerning the use of the name, image, and likeness of student athletes heard issues surrounding NIL policies, including the registration of such entities, such as collectives, boosters, with state to aid in their regulation for NIL deals and student disclosures. Challenges specific to junior colleges, such as the lack of financial resources and attention devoted to such institutions in NIL deals, and difficulties with transfer policies for athletes moving between 2- and 4-year college universities, and the correlation between NIL and gaming in Nevada. With that brief history, I'm going to turn things over to the athletic directors from UNLV and UNR and have them talk a little bit about kind of what they're seeing in their area. Then we will have some of the coaches are going to speak to you today from both of the universities. So we will turn it over to you first, Stephanie Rempe.
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee, my name is Stephanie Remp, and I am the athletic director at the University of Nevada. So thank you for having us here today. This bill is really important to our ability to stay competitive nationally when it comes to name, image, and likeness in the state of college athletics today. So the bill that she referenced before has been very effective. However, the thing that has changed is there is a $2.8 billion lawsuit that is about to be settled. And through the terms of that settlement agreement, we as institutions will have the ability to start to pay our student athletes through revenue sharing. And so the bill is critical for us because it allows us to be able to do that. And if it wasn't for the bill changing, we would be at a pretty significant competitive disadvantage. And so we're happy to answer any questions about it, and that really is the basics of the bill. And Eric, I don't know if you have additional comments.
Good afternoon, Chair Torres Fawcett and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Eric Nepomuceno. I'm the Senior Deputy Athletics Director and Chief Operating Officer for UNLV Athletics. I would like to thank Senator Lang for sponsoring this very important bill. I do echo what Stephanie has mentioned in terms of this being a critical bill for us. I think 293 looks to address the current needs in the current collegiate environment specific to name, image, and likeness. Without this provision, we will be at a disadvantage across the nation because other institutions are already paying for name, image, and likeness directly. I believe that this amendment or bill also allows for us to add certain protections to our student athletes by broadening our involvement and guidance through that process. I also believe that it should be noted that advancement of this bill will not lead to public dollars being used for these purposes, but rather it will advance our athletic philanthropic efforts to advance our student athlete experience. At this time, I know we have several presenters that would like to provide some context in this space. I think if it's okay, we'd like to turn it over to President Sandoval, Coach Choate, and Coach Passner, and certainly will be available for questions afterwards.
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, for the record, Brian Sandoval, President of the University of Nevada. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of Senator Lang's bill, SB 293. I don't really have a lot to add in terms of what the prior testimony is, except for, and I think something that was brought up that was real important, is protection for the student athletes. And you know, NIL is complex, and it essentially has been the wild, wild west. And it's really important to me, you know, as I work with our student athletes and students on our campus, that you know, our athletic departments are equipped to be able to advise them and really be able to give them the skills to really navigate what is what is otherwise a very complex area. So we come before you today in full support of this bill and respectfully request that you give it your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Assembly members, my name is Jeff Choate. I'm the head football coach at the University of Nevada. I want to thank Senator Lang for her hard work on this bill. I'd also like to acknowledge the students that spoke earlier. That was very impressive. The DFS students, I think, just want to give them a quick shout out before we get into this. So I think the facts are kind of laid out pretty clean here. We don't want to be at a competitive disadvantage with our Mountain West peers or other institutions in the NCAA. That I think is pretty obvious. I think the thing that is maybe understated here a little bit is how cloudy the waters get for some of these kids sometimes, whether they're dealing with agents, you're negotiating directly with the individual student athlete, and a third party. The lack of institutional control over what's going on in the NIL space can be very problematic. And candidly, one of the things that it can create is it can create problems within your locker room, and that also creates a competitive disadvantage. And I don't think that's talked about a lot, but I do think that's a reality of what's going on in this space right now. And I think that having some guardrails, having the adults have the keys to the car a little bit, by having the institutions have more input and control over this space is very important. And we certainly appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. And there we are. Our coach is online.
Yep, Chair Torres Fawcett, just want to first say that I love your energy, and I have an open assistant spot here at UNLV for the program. So if I could bring you aboard, if you want to apply, I'm looking for an energy giver on staff, just to let you know that.
Can I wear Nevada blue?
No, you can't. You've got to wear Running Rebel red, but I do have an open spot looking for you. So just apply if you're interested. But I do want to say this, though, just to echo what everyone said about how important it is that the bill gets passed, because as Coach just mentioned, without question, you don't want to be at a competitive disadvantage. And besides that, to have anything moving forward that's not in-house, where every other program around the country and every other state could do things in-house, and if our institutions are doing things outside through third party, it's as Coach mentioned, it's going to be bad for the locker room, but then it's also going to put you at a severe competitive disadvantages, where I'm dealing with with agents right now and lawyers right now who are hesitant to even sign with us because they're concerned about, well, what happens if you don't get this bill passed? Are you going to be able to really guarantee the money? And so that is a big deal. That's the reality of what we're in. And having this bill passed is a critical aspect in order for us to be able to compete and be on the same level playing field that everyone we're competing against in the Mountain West Conference.
Thank you, Coach. And I might add, you might wonder why we didn't do this sooner, because in last session we talked about this bill and we talked about NIL, but I think that we felt that lots of schools were lots of states were implementing language in legislation, and they hadn't really thought out what it was exactly going to be, which is why we had an interim study to look at it to decide what would be best for Nevada, to make sure that we had the guardrails in place so that it would benefit the schools and our student athletes. And so that's why we come to you today, because we're at that place where we have done all the work and we're ready to pass legislation so that our schools can be at a competitive advantage with all other schools in their division. Thank you. And we're happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Senator, for the presentation and for the opportunity to possibly join the Rebels coaching staff. But I could tell you that today we have a basketball game, and I am actually playing in the basketball game. I haven't picked up a basketball since the last game 2 years ago. So I'm not expecting it to go very well. You probably don't want me on your team. At this time, we'll go ahead and go to questions. I know I have a number of questions. Just gonna survey members. All right, I'll go ahead and start with Vice Chair De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. Again, thank you for the excellent presentation. And just a quick question. So how have other states also approached this issue? Have they also enacted a similar legislation? What's been like the sort of the national legislative approach on this issue? Thank you.
Senator Lang, for the record, thank you, Assembly Member, for that question. But before I answered it, I don't know if you all know this, but the president of UNR, Brian Sandoval, was just appointed to the executive board of the NC2A. So,
Jeff Choate, head football coach, UNR, for the record. I think there's not only legislation, this is pretty standard legislation nationwide. I can speak to the state of Texas, which I most recently worked in. Not only do they have the ability to do this in-house at institutions, NCAA institutions within the state of Texas, they've even gone as far as to have legislation for high school NIL. And so this is pretty much standard operating procedure nationwide right now to allow the NIL to be operated within the walls of the institutions themselves. And moving forward, that would be revenue share once the House decision is codified.
Thank you. Any follow-up? Assemblymember DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation. I will admit a high degree of ignorance when it comes to NIL and the contractual issues that go there. Just reading the bill, what I'm getting from it is that the university or the NC2A can actually now contract in the state of Nevada with the student. What is unclear to me is this issue with regards to the University Foundation. I'm assuming that's where the money comes from. They get paid with that. What's the relationship between the University Foundation and the university itself or the NC2A?
Eric Nepomuceno for the record. Thank you for that question. So after our first testimony, there was a request to add additional language to the bill to ensure that funding for NIL would only be used for NIL. So that language is to ensure that it wouldn't be used for any other athletic department purposes besides its intended purpose, which would be to be provided for student athletes' name, image, and likeness.
And Assembly Member, if I could add to that, that was an amendment that was added into the bill. I'm going to remove that amendment because under legal advice in the Senate, they felt that there were enough guardrails in the bill to make sure that the money was specifically, we weren't getting money from other departments in the university, that it stayed within the athletic department and the money that they raised specifically for NIL.
Yeah, before the follow-up, I just want to be clear. So, Senator, I just want to understand, is the intent then to remove the entirety of subsection 5 on page 4?
Thank you for that question. So Eric Nepomuceno for the record. The intent would be to remove the language that specifically talks about the financials. However, we would like to include the language that still exempts it from public records requests.
Yeah, I do believe that's sub 5. That's on page 4. But we'll make sure that we get confirmation if this bill makes it to a work session. I think we have another follow-up from Assemblymember DeLong. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick follow-up. So does this mean that the university will be acting as an agent for the athlete?
So I don't see it necessarily as the university acting as an agent. I think the university now will have an opportunity to act as a transactional partner for these deals. The student athlete will still be signing deals with third parties with respect to name, image, and likeness. And the university now can help the transaction of the payments of those deals.
Can I say one other thing?
Yes, please
that
proceed.
okay?
Please,
Josh
please.
Passner.
Good job. Thank you.
Yep, Josh. I didn't say it the last time. I was too focused trying to recruit you. But Josh Passner, UNLV. I would just like to say the importance of passing this sooner than later, because it is so imperative that we'd rather have everything in house. And I think when you're dealing with the student athletes, it's so much better to have it coming from the university or the institution than coming from a third party. And as Nep just said, that if there is a legitimate NIL deal outside of the university, that's what it was supposed to be intended for, name, image, likeness. To have the institution be involved is way more safer than having it what we're doing now through third parties. So the quicker this can get through, it's the better for the universities by and large.
Thank you. And I know I have a couple other members with questions, but I had a clarifying question as well, because I did have the opportunity to meet with the COO from UNLV Athletics earlier today. And so I just wanted some clarification too, for the record. So right now, if a student was to get a contract and it was to be with a private vendor, it is on the university to make sure that they are still meeting everything that has to go with NCAA guidelines, but there is nothing that would essentially require them to be involved in that process. So the agent could then make that deal, and then you guys find out about it after the fact, and then could find that it is actually in conflict with the provisions of the agreement that you have with the NCAA that you are required to follow. Is that correct?
Thank you for that question, Chair. Eric Nepomuceno for the record. Yes, that is correct. And in fact, that has happened. Unfortunately, we, as Senator Lang mentioned, one of the points of the current bill requires disclosure. And unfortunately, at sometimes we receive disclosure of these NIL bills after the activity has already taken place or after it's been agreed upon. So there is that chance that it could be in direct conflict with NCAA guiding principles or interim policy or institutional policy as well.
May I add? Okay, so Stephanie Remp, Athletic Director at the University of Nevada. One of the pieces of the terms of the settlement agreement that we are all waiting for the settlement terms to be agreed upon in the courts, it is going to require every single deal that is outside of the university that's over $600 will have to go through a clearinghouse process. And that will have to happen in advance of our student athletes signing contracts outside of the university. So they are trying very hard to put in place some pretty significant guardrails that will protect the student athletes.
Thank you. That's helpful. I'll go first to Assemblymember LaRue Hatch, and then I'll go to Assemblymember Koenig.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you for being here today. So as a teacher, my first priority is always education and education of our students. And I'm sure that while we're focusing on competition, you share that dedication to our academics. And so I think this may be a question out of ignorance because I don't know how the monies work, but could you just speak to if we are now paying students for their name, image, likeness through the institutions, will that have impact on the money that is set aside for academics and for the core functions of the institutions?
Thank you, Assembly Member. Stephanie Remp, Athletic Director at the University of Nevada. So I would say no. So the scholarship numbers, the scholarships that the student athletes receive today will still continue to be in place. The revenue sharing opportunities that we will be able to add to their, to be able to pay them is on top of their scholarships. And in fact, there are actually opportunities to provide even more scholarships with the House settlement terms.
Thank you for that. And so just as a follow-up, are the funding streams completely separate that we are discussing? So we're not talking about the funds that we at a state are allocating towards these institutions. It's a separate cash flow?
Stephanie Remp, for the record. Yes, they are separate. So financial aid is considered one portion of how we award scholarships, and then revenue share will be definitely separate than that.
Assemblymember Koenig.
Thank you, Chair. And I can almost bet that I'm the biggest sports fan here on the dais. To the fact that I think I could tell you all 6 of the new men's basketball players that signed in the last week, where they're from and some of their stats. So, I mean, I've been a season ticket holder in the past, not now because I'm here, but so I've been following this bill, and my question for Senator Lang is, I thought the addition of the foundation was a good thing. I think it just was another safeguard. And you're saying that the bill is strong enough that it does what it does without that. But by keeping that extra safeguard in the foundation in place, what would be the negative of that?
Senator Lang, for the record, we may want to ask committee counsel, but it was thought in the Senate that it wasn't necessary, that that the bill was strong enough on its own without having that additional, and it came at the very end, like right before we were voting. Yes.
Stephanie Remp, for the record, one of the things that we discussed at the last committee meeting, when donors give to revenue share, donors are very explicit about where that money is going, and we would never be able to take that money and divert it somewhere else. And so I think that's every institution is going to be like that, and you have to maintain the integrity of the donations that are coming in and where the donors expect that to go.
And at this time, I am going to get some clarification from our legal counsel, Mr. Killian, a fellow Nevada grad.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. And yes, along those terms, regardless of whether this language is in the bill or not, there are contractual rights that attach when donors give these kinds of gifts and attach terms to those kinds of gifts. Those contractual rights would be enforceable separately as a matter of contract law outside of this provision being included in the bill. So the kind of protections that this provision in subsection 5 would grant would already exist as a matter of contract law.
Thank you.
Members, any additional questions? Assemblymember, I'm going to go to Assemblymember Flanagan and then Assemblymember DeLong.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. You might have touched on it a little bit, and it has to do with the scholarship portion. So it reads that the scholarship won't be impacted, but if a student is, or if monies in a significant amount do come in, you also kind of mentioned there may be opportunities to create more scholarships. So I kind of would like to hear more about how, if substantial dollars come in slated for an athlete, and that athlete was initially identified as a scholarship, maybe it's academic and athletic, how does that play together? And if there is a significant portion of money for them through a NIL opportunity, it just seems to me like scholarship opportunities could be created for other needy students if there is a significant portion of money for a student athlete.
Thank you for the question, Assembly Member. This is Stephanie Remp for the record. So I'm going to try and you tell me if this answers your question. But one of the terms of the settlement agreement is that they are putting in place roster caps. So before you had a certain number of scholarships. So you take Coach Pastor, so you take men's basketball, and they've had a limit of 13 scholarships, but no roster limit, so they could carry 25 players if they wanted. With the new terms, they are now capping rosters for men's basketball at 15. you can now put all 15 players on scholarship. Football is there right now. There's 85 full scholarships, but you could have 120 players. They're now going to cap that roster at 105, but you can scholarship all 105 players. So those are the opportunities that we have where now you can scholarship more kids based on your roster limits. And so I don't know if that answers your question.
It helps. We can probably discuss more of it offline. Thanks.
Members, any additional question? I'm sorry, Assemblymember DeLong, did you have another question?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be quick. Does this bill create any new fiduciary responsibilities on the university for the students and the money that they're going to be receiving?
Stephanie Remp for the record. It is incumbent on us as members of our athletics programs and our universities to make sure that our student athletes are educated. With the revenue share, there will be tax implications just like there are when they're paid outside of the university through the NIL deals. We have to make sure that we are doing our job to ensure that they understand some of the responsibilities that come with being compensated the way that they are being compensated. Most schools, I'm sure UNLV just like us, we have a student athlete development person, and their job is to focus on things outside of academics and athletics. It's things like financial responsibility, resume writing, internship opportunities. That's their job. And so they create opportunities where we are educating our student athletes from a financial responsibility.
I appreciate the education part. I'm coming at it more from, are we creating a new legal responsibility for the university that a student that ends up burning through all their money could get sued because they didn't get the right advice? That's where I'm coming from.
Counselor, do you have any thoughts?
Eric Nepomuceno, UNLV. Thank you for that question. I do think that responsibility and that actually already exists. Name, image, and likeness has been around now for 4 years. We have educated our student athletes about the importance of tax implications for these deals that they're taking on. I do think this bill would support us in terms of taking that process in-house and allowing us to further guide them in that landscape. There's no question that there will be more responsibility, financial or not, once this House settlement goes through.
Thank you, and I would like to go back to our Chief Counsel, Go Pack, who's going to give some additional clarification as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. I was just going to note the existence of NRS 398-320, which is another section that's not amended in this bill, but a section of existing law that authorizes the institutions within NSHE to provide exactly that sort of training courses of education or training relating to contracts, financial literacy, basically any of these issues that may arise for student athletes. It is permissive authority, but it is authority that exists within existing law.
Thank you. And I was just wondering, just based off of our conversation, if you could give some additional clarification on like the importance of keeping this confidential. I'm trying to understand, why would it be important to student athletes not to have this information shared?
Jeff Choate, head football coach, University of Nevada, for the record. I'm sure Coach Passner probably wants to weigh in on this as well. I think the important for confidentiality, these young men, let me say this, playing football is assuming risk, okay? Risk of bodily harm, risk of failure, risk of ridicule, and in today's day and age, you got this thing, okay? So when Johnny's money becomes public and Johnny doesn't perform to the level that maybe people think his salary should indicate, then he becomes a target. And he's still a 19-year-old kid. And so I think that's why this is important to keep these confidential, okay? And hopefully that's a clear answer as to why I think this is an important part of this, is because these are kids. You know, they're big kids, but they're still kids, and we want to protect them and their interests, and that's a part of our job as coaches in terms of mentoring them and coaching them. And so I appreciate the question.
And Josh Passner, for the record, and I'll echo what Coach just said, he's 100% right. And also just for, as Coach just mentioned, because of the phone and social media, if one of these for these young men, and they get a deal and they're paid and it's public, I mean, they become not only a target for social media for not performing, but it can also be a target for for safety as well too, when someone's aware of what they're making as a young person. And so, and not only just for a possible physical crime, but how about people trying to then come at them at all different ways of trying to get investments and whoever what else, and maybe some shady characters, and all of a sudden they really put themselves in a bind when somebody really knows what they're making. Because without question, if it's public, if it's allowed to be public, everyone's going to go for public records to find out what every student athlete is making, and that will be national news, not only in the locale and the state, but all over the country of what someone's being paid as a student athlete.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I definitely, something that I think is also particularly interesting is that it would otherwise be making private contracts between a student and a business than public. And I think that is what I think kind of like reinforces, like there is no other place in statute that I'm familiar with that would then make a private individual citizen's contract with a private business public. And so it's not a contract between the student and the university, as I understand it right now. This is a contract that they would then have, maybe with Raising Cane's or another restaurant, another business, so that they can make appearances or they're doing certain things or engaging with the community in a certain way. And so these are private contracts. They're not university contracts. Is that correct?
Jeff Choate, head football coach, University of Nevada, for the record. Currently, that is the case. We are in NIL until the House decision eventually gets codified, and then we would be talking about rev share, which is a different entity. So currently, 100% of what you said is accurate.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go to Assemblymember Hanson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for being here. I appreciate this bill and was here in 21 for the first part of this, and glad to see us trying to tie up some loose ends and really protect these student athletes. Actually, I think my question is probably more just to clarify whether to you, Senator Lang, or to staff. I just want to make sure I understand the amendment that we're going to take off is that Section 2 language that is really sub 5, but we're going to keep Section 2 sub 4, which is about the confidentiality, if I got that right. So we're going to strike out sub 4 of Section 2, keep sub 5. Do I have it right? So any gift, donation, bequest, grant, or other, that's the part we're striking, isn't it? And then we're keeping the confidentiality. Okay, great.
Yes.
My boomer brain needed to get it right.
No problem.
So thank you for being here.
And then I'll go back to Assemblymember Flanagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one last question, and it may tie to the foundation. Does the university get a percentage, or is there a percentage cap? Like, are you sort of an agent, so to speak? If you're assisting the students with their contracts and managing their contracts, how much money they get, how they use it, how they're protected, is there any fee association that comes to the university by these students getting this opportunity? Or are you forfeiting all rights to any money?
Stephanie Remp, for the record. Thank you for the question, Assembly Member. No, the university will not receive any portion of their either NIL deals outside of the university or through the revenue sharing.
Members, are there any additional questions? I don't think you had this many questions in the Senate, so congratulations for enduring this. The Assembly Education Committee was very studious, and they prepared a lot for this hearing, so thank you. I appreciate it. At this time, we'll go ahead and move to support. Just in advance, I'll let members of the public know we're going to go ahead and take 20 minutes of support. We'll do 10 minutes here in Carson City, 10 minutes in Las Vegas if the Las Vegas room is full, although I do not believe it is. And then we'll go to the phones if there's anyone else. I do not see a packed room in Vegas, so I think we'll be able to stay here. But if you're in Vegas and wishing to testify in support, please approach. And I'll invite anyone here. We'll go ahead and start in Las Vegas since that should go rather fast. So please begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Patty Charlton, Chancellor of the Nevada System of Higher Education, and I just wanted to say that NSHE is in strong support of SB 293. SB 293 represents an important step forward in ensuring that Nevada's student athletes have the same opportunities as their peers across the country in this evolving landscape of name, image, and likeness rights. We'd like to thank the Senator Lang for her leadership on this issue, and we urge you to support.
Thank you, Chancellor. Seeing no one else in Las Vegas, we'll go ahead and move to Carson City. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Russell Rowe here, testifying in support in my personal capacity as an alum of UNLV and as a donor to the athletic programs, minor donor to the athletic programs. But being in that community and the UNLV athletics community, and knowing many of the folks who do make larger contributions to support the programs, having these protections in place is really critically important. It's getting harder to raise these monies, not knowing where they're going, what third parties are taking from those student athletes, and then what protections are in place. And anything we can do to ensure that the institutions have more control over that is really critical, and it's really critical to the donor community as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Sebastian Ross, and today I'm speaking in my own capacity. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Senator Lang for following up on the legislation, as well as former Speaker Frierson for sponsoring AB 254 back in 2021 when he picked up some legislation that me and my colleague, two former Rebel Law students, brought forward during that session. But some of the themes that have remained consistent in 2021 when we testified, I think it was March 30th, to today, is that we're trying to stay competitive, but we're also trying to help students as well. So I'm in full support. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome back.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Brendan Bray. I'm the head swimming and diving coach at the University of Nevada. I wanted to thank Assemblymember Dahlia for letting me sit with him this morning. I enjoyed my time with him. Even though it's from the southern part of the state, I hope you're still supportive of the North and the University of Nevada athletic program. So I wanted to say that I am in full support of this legislation, and thank you for hearing or having our time here.
My name's Bill Dewaney. I'm an assistant coach with the men's basketball team at the University of Nevada. Thank you to the committee for your consideration and your time. I'm in full support of this. The protections that go in are critical to our student athletes and critical to our competitive advantage going forward on a national scale. So thank you for your time. I am in full support of this bill.
Good afternoon. Kyle Guy, assistant coach, men's Nevada basketball. For the record, I'm in full support of this bill as a former collegiate and professional athlete. As my colleague Bill just said, the protections it provides and the competitive advantage. I'm in full support of this bill. I've only been in this state for 2 weeks now. I'm a new hire, and I can tell you if UNLV and UNR are on the same page, then I'm in full support. Thanks.
That's why I wore purple today. You know, I'm a little disappointed though. Both basketball coaches said they were not available to play in today's game. I don't see anybody else here in Carson City wishing to testify in support. So at this time, I'll go ahead and go to the phones. AVH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of SB 293?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and go to opposition. I do not see anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition, nor do I see anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition. AVH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and go to neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? Seeing none and seeing none in Las Vegas. AVH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in neutral?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite the bill sponsor for any closing remarks.
Thank you, Chair. Senator Lang, for the record. I just want to thank you for your time today. And it's been a few years that we've been working on this, and we wanted to make sure that we had it right for Nevada and right for our athletes. And it's been great working with both the universities, although I have to say I did learn how to do the Go Pack thing today.
It still needs a little bit more practice, but we can work on it.
Well, that's because my district is just across the street from UNLV. But thank you so much, and I look forward to your support. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And with that, we'll go ahead and close the hearing on SB 293, and we will open the hearing on SB 322 for my counterpart in the Senate and a fellow Wolfpack alum who I hope will be playing basketball today, and is a former basketball player for Nevada Wolfpack. She'll be highly amused by my inability to play basketball again later today.
We are going to have fun. Let's see, I have a couple slides here to get to. Let's see. Okay, thank you so much, Madam Chair and members of the Assembly Committee on Education. My name is Senator Angie Taylor, and I proudly represent Senate District 15 in Washoe County. Go Pack. Okay, I had to get that in. The bill that I would like to talk to you about today is Senate Bill 322, and I really appreciate the opportunity to present it to you. It's my pleasure to do it, and the give you a little summation of the bill is that it requires certain training for every member of the Nevada Board, the Nevada System of Higher Education, the NSHE Board of Regents, to provide them with necessary knowledge and tools to effectively govern in this role. A little bit of background information. We know our system of higher education is unique. We have 13 regents in the system, 2 research universities, 1 state university, 4 community colleges, and the Research Institute. And just like any other board, they set policies, budgets, set the direction for NSHE. The scope is, actually they approve budgets, they hire presidents, they oversee additionally 2 med schools and 1 law school, and really they have the fiduciary responsibility for the system. That's a big job. The purpose of this Senate Bill 322, is just to ensure that the highest standard and uphold the highest expectations of accountability, of transparency, of quality, and of trust. These are important public roles. So why do we put this together? NRS 386.327 requires training for school board trustees, and that came about during the same time for an increase in transparency, increase in credibility, and increase in trust. But there's no similar requirement for the members of the NSHE Board of Regents. This bill is just applied to the Board of Regents, and take you through the bill a little bit, Madam Chair, with your permission, take it real quick. I know you guys don't want to be long.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay. Section 1 requires...
We have all day until 7 p.m.
Oh, yeah, till we have to go. That's right. Joe? Section 1 requires every member of the Board of Regents to complete professional development training during the first year that they're on the board, and then again during the 3rd year that they're on the board. Let me be clear. They have training. This doesn't mean at all that they have no training in place. That isn't the case at all. They absolutely do have some training. Some of the topics that we really wanted to make sure and put in statute for this group, right? Some are similar to the high school, to the school district, the K-12 boards, and then some are different. Open meeting law, public records, duties and responsibilities of regents, employment and contracts, higher ed governance. How do you do this as a board at the higher ed level? That piece right there helped us a lot when I was on the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees. Learning the best way to govern really did help. And there's some elimination of bias and discrimination training in here, something on power-based violence, regent, legislator, executive branch relations, how we work with each other, and just some best practices that are out there. There's some reporting involved to make sure that this training does occur and is similar to what we have for in statute right now for the K-12 districts, for those boards. The secretary will assist with scheduling the training, and they'll make sure the reporting of the hours occurs as well. So that's pretty much it from the bill. I've been fortunate enough to work with the Nevada System of Higher Education, the regents, their chancellor, to talk about this bill, the Nevada Faculty Alliance. How do we put this together in such a way that we're helping the board to be better, to be strengthened, to be more transparent, to have more trust, and then at the same time, putting them in a situation where they can continue to do this work and do it with the best, they do it with the best intentions, but do it in the best possible position that they can for all of our students in higher education in the state of Nevada. So with that, Madam Chair, I am prepared to stand for questions.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Assembly Member Koenig.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Senator Taylor. Will those classes go towards their public safety or their public official certificate? because I mean, as part of the K through 12 school board, all those classes go towards your public official certificate or whatever. I don't know. I think we both got that. But I just wondered if the classes that you're making them required to take, are all of those going to go towards that also?
I think it depends upon who conducts the class, and if you have to turn in the description, kind of like CEUs, you have to turn in the description, outline your learning outcomes, and so on, and then that's determined. That same thing will have to happen. Thank you. Sorry, Angie Taylor for the record. Thank you, Assembly Member.
Thank you, Senator. At this time, we'll go ahead and go to Assemblymember Lawyer Hatch.
Thank you so much, Chair, and I'm so glad to see you back in Assembly Education. We miss you tremendously. So my question, I appreciate the intent of this bill, and I know that we're already doing this with our K-12 schools. My question, as I'm reading this, I notice that it says the Board of Regents shall complete training. In other bills we've had about NG or Board of Regents, we always have to say may, because we've been told we're not allowed to require anything. And so I just wondered, and this might be a question for legal, why we're allowed in this bill to say shall, and we can't say, and we don't have to say may, and just make it a suggestion.
We'll go ahead and go to legal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. So again, not going into the full King, Oakley, et cetera, and doing my best Kevin Powers impersonation to keep this as short as possible. Article 11, Section 4 of the Nevada Constitution gives the legislature the authority to establish the state university, requires it to be controlled by a Board of Regents whose duties shall be prescribed by law. So the Constitution empowers the legislature to prescribe the duties of the regents, but King, Oakley, and the subsequent case law limit the authority of the legislature to prescribe the operations of the state university. So since this bill is limited to prescribing the duties of the regents, it's squarely within the constitutional authority of the state legislature.
Yeah, what he said.
You know, Mr. Killian wasn't able to make it last week, so I'm very happy that these bills were scheduled today, because we've had him speak a number of times. It's been helpful. Members, any additional questions? It doesn't appear that there are any additional questions, so with that, we'll go ahead and move to support. So at this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in support to SB 322. Please begin when you're ready.
Kent Irvin, K-E-N-T-E-R-V-I-N, for the Nevada Faculty Alliance, the independent statewide association of professional employees at Nevada's public colleges and universities. We work to empower our members to be fully engaged in our mission to help students succeed. Good governance at the system level helps us fulfill that mission. The NFA supports Senate Bill 322 as amended in the Senate and without further amendment as recommended by Senator Taylor. We thank Senator Taylor for sponsoring the bill and Assemblymember Hansen for co-sponsoring. Many of the training topics in SB 322 are already part of the onboarding process for new regents, but with additional topics that are essential knowledge for regents' fiduciary and oversight responsibilities. This bill can help build trust and transparency among the regents, the legislature, and the public. Mandatory training is currently in statute for school board trustees, so regents should have similar requirements. The only requirement to be a candidate for a regent is to be a resident of the district, and some new regents have little prior familiarity with higher education or with the Nevada system of higher education, which is a very large and complex enterprise. Training topics should include open meeting law, non-discrimination, state and federal laws and regulations applicable to higher education, ethics for public officials, best practices in governance and board procedures, shared governance in academia, academic freedom, and other topics relevant to NSHE governance and student outcomes. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Chair Torres Fawcett, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Taylor Avery, and I'm the Manager of Political Affairs for the Vegas Chamber and a proud UNR alumni. The Chamber supports policies that strengthen the leadership and effectiveness of our state's higher education system. Because of this, the Chamber supports SB 322, which will enhance accountability, transparency, and leadership competency within the Board of Regents. The Board make choices that shape the state's future workforce, making its effectiveness important to Nevada's economic success. Thank you to the committee for its consideration.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and go to Las Vegas. Chancellor, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you so much, Chair Torres Fawcett and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Patty Charlton, Interim Chancellor for the Nevada System of Higher Education. I first want to begin by thanking Senator Taylor for her leadership and her willingness to work closely with the Nevada System of Higher Education on amendments to the original version of the legislation. It's through that collaborative process that the bill has been meaningfully improved. The revised language appropriately balances the need for professional development among regions, particularly in areas such as open meeting law, campus safety, and equity, with the flexibility to adapt training to evolving challenges. It also aligns with NSHE's shared commitment to transparency, student success, and responsible leadership. SB 322, as amended, represents a thoughtful step forward, and we support it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in Las Vegas at this time, AVH, is there anyone else wishing to testify in support of SB 322?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to testify in opposition? Mr. Keating, did you want to come up? Oh, he said he's passing. Sorry. Is there anyone in? I don't see anyone else in Las Vegas. ABH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition to SB 322?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers at this time.
And I don't see anybody neutral here in Carson City nor in Las Vegas. ABH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify neutral to SB 322?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. And Senator Taylor, feel free to close the hearing whenever.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Angie Taylor, Senate District 15. For the record, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Kent Irvin and the Nevada Faculty Alliance, who actually were the ones who brought the bill to my attention, and the work that they've done to get to a place where we can get people in agreement. And think also would be remiss if I didn't thank the Chancellor Charlton, and the chair of their board to find a way, how can we get this thing, make it work together so that everyone is on board. So I'm very appreciative to them, and I'm very appreciative to you, Madam Chair. So thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and close the hearing for SB 322. And we'll go ahead and move on to the next bill that we have before it. I believe Senator Taylor is presenting that one as well, which is SB 444. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the esteemed Committee on Education. I'm Senator Angie Taylor, and I proudly represent Senate District 15 in Washoe County. This bill is, I wasn't say it's a fairly simple bill, but you know that jinxes it when you do that. But really, this is, I'm just pleased to have the opportunity to present Senate Bill 444 on behalf of the Senate Committee on Education. This bill requires school districts to develop policies on the use and possession of certain electronic devices in schools, including certain information. Before I discuss the specifics of the bill, just give you a little bit of background information. Most of us are glued to our cell phones every day. We know that it's difficult to imagine living in 2025 without one, especially when we're in the thick moves of the session. Many of today's students have never known a world without the significant influence of cell phones and tablets. And some of us remember a time when directions came from MapQuest printouts. No volunteers. You probably don't even know what this is, Madam Chair, but
I have vague memories.
okay,
As
it's
a
cloudy.
child
It's
of
cloudy.
MapQuest.
It's cloudy.
Maps. I'm not sure what a map.
Yeah, okay.
Is the app.
Anyway, thank you, Madam Chair, for that input. Anyway, my co-sponsor of the bill, we understand what's happening. We get it. We understand. Anyway, we have never known a world without that kind of influence. But we also know that cell phones and other electronic devices, they're great tools, and they have been significantly used in our societies and in schools and investments, and sometimes at a cost. The cell phone in particular has become a constant companion for students, and unfortunately, research shows it also has been a constant disruption. A 2023 report by Common Sense Media indicates 97% of students, oh, I forgot to move my slides. Made them, so I'm gonna use them. Okay, there we go. Okay, we went through that already. Okay, here we go. All right. A 2023 report by Common Sense Media indicates that 97% of students aged 11 through 17 reported using their phones in some capacity during school hours and handling their phones approximately 13 times a day during the school day, and that's on average, because some do it, we know much more than that. Additionally, national data has shown the negative impacts and effects of cell phone usage in schools on learning, the negative impacts on mental health, the negative impacts on cyberbullying, and also the negative impacts on teacher morale. For some of the background information, 6 states have banned the use of cell phones in schools altogether, and they're listed there. 3 states limit cell phone usage, and then Minnesota requires each school district to implement a policy, and that's what the intention here is, not for us as the legislature to develop the policy for the 17 different school districts across our state, but to have each school district, each board of trustees to develop the program, the policy that will work best in their districts. And 2 states, by the way, currently have pilot programs that they're working through. And this is a little color demonstration of the maps, who has policies and who doesn't, and you can see it's beginning to fill up even more. So Senate Bill 444 will require each district to adopt a policy for cell phones in schools, and include exceptions to the policy, like for emergencies, instructional purposes, if you have an IEP or a 504 and your electronic device is a part of it. Senate Bill 444 would do that. We also, in the bill, it also describes having a progressive discipline scale based upon the number and the seriousness of the violations. Research shows that once you put the policy in place, and then how do you enforce the policy? You do that progressively. But again, the districts will dictate what that looks like for them. And then updates, and then this also updates outdated language that was in the NRS, like a pager. I know you don't know what a pager is, so. You don't remember a pager. So it's some outdated language was in the legislation. So this also updates that statute to take those out. And that's all I have for the presentation. It's really a cell phone policy for our K-12 districts, and hoping to create a better learning environment for our students and teaching environment for our staff. I stand ready to answer questions, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
Members, are there any questions except for what a pager is? Assemblymember Mosca.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. Great to see you here. I just had a quick one because I know it's by district. So how many districts do not have a policy right now?
Right now, I believe 3 districts. That Washoe has a policy, Carson has a policy, Clark has a policy. Those I know for sure. But again, and the policies vary. Sometimes you have to check your phone in when you get to school. Sometimes, I believe Clark's policy is you put the cell phone in the bag. I mean, so they do it very differently, and that's why it's really important for the local district to have control over what that policy looks like.
So this is just directs the Board of Trustees in each district to adopt a policy that works for them.
To adopt a policy on the usage of it, and then also the progressive discipline should there be violations. And that also includes what does it look like in emergency situations, which is the number one thing that parents are concerned about. What does it look like if there is an emergency? And I will say this anecdotally from the Carson City School District. Information I've been given back is that there was a lot of pushback when they started this, but right now everybody, the parents like it, they support it. You can see the difference in their children, and certainly we want to do it for our staff as well. Thank you. I'm sorry, Angie Taylor for the record. Thank you, Assemblymember.
Thank you. I believe I do have a couple of other questions. Assemblymember Dahlia, did you have a question, or did you want to text it? Oh, he'll text it to you later. That's just a joke. He doesn't have a question, but I'll go ahead and go to Vice Chair De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. And again, Senator Taylor, it's always great to have you at your home. This is your home base, right? Assembly Ed. So my question is really focused on the timing of the implementation of the measure. So this bill is focused on, again, if it passes and we get it through, that the upcoming school year, each district will have in place a cell phone policy the beginning of the upcoming school year this August, correct?
Angie Taylor, Senate District 15 for the record. Yes, Vice Chair De Silva, that is the intention. If it passes, it goes into effect July 1. We know school boards continue to meet during the summertime, and they can actually begin now to talk about it if they like to. But the whole idea is to have it in place before the fall semester.
Thank you, and Thank you for that question, Vice Chair, because I do think when I look at Section 2, as it currently reads right now, it does require that the policy was in place by June 30th. Would there be any consideration Oh, that's for next year. Oh, we have a whole year. They have tons of time. They have tons of time to create this policy. So it's not rushed for this upcoming school year, right? It would be for the following. So it would be the following school year. It would be the 26-27 school year, correct?
It's Angie Taylor for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair. It says no later than June 30th, but we're encouraging people as much as we can to put it in place for the upcoming school year.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? I don't see any additional questions at this time. Thank you so much. I appreciate the bill presentation at this time. I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in support of SB 444.
Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. I am Brian Wallace, a computer science teacher and the Vice President of the Nevada State Education Association. I work here in the Carson City School District, and we did adopt Yonder pouches for this school year to limit a student's ability to access their cell phones as well as any Bluetooth-enabled headphones or watches. At my school, which is Eagle Valley Middle School, we have a marked decrease in students being tempted to check their phones for any reason or attempting to use their phone and headphones to listen to music, communicate with their students in other classes, and etc. Current data from my dean suggests we will see a decrease in our online conflicts that may have started at school due to the inappropriate use of those electronic devices. At Carson High School, one surprising result of our Yonder pouch use is the noise level has dramatically increased during lunch. Students are actually engaging in face-to-face conversations because their faces are no longer buried in their phones. As a computer science teacher, the pouches do allow the flexibility for appropriate classroom use of the devices, such as using it for their camera. Students are able to unlock and lock the pouch on their own and the days that we are appropriately using that technology. The use of the pouches is now part of our students' daily routine. We have very few violations of students not using the pouches or attempting to access their devices during the school day. NSCA supports the progressive discipline process when addressing any violations while still allowing the appropriate use of those student devices as listed. We urge you to support SB 444. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Susan Kima, Executive Director for the Nevada Association of School Superintendents. We are testifying in support of SB 444. The proposed elements in SB 444 fall in line with school superintendents' safety and learning goals for their districts. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. I am here on behalf of the Nevada Association of School Boards, very much in support of Senate Bill 444. We really appreciate the bill sponsor for working with us on this particular piece of legislation for a few reasons. The biggest one being it's permissive for each district to be able to decide what is best for their students within their district. And while we know of the 3 counties that were mentioned previously that actually have a policy now, the other districts either have an unwritten policy or they kind of let the teachers do different things. This will bring that all together within this time frame so that we have one consistent policy within that particular district. The second big piece of it is the fact that it expands it to an electronic communication device. That is very forward thinking because we can't just say it's cell phones anymore or tablets or iPads. When you have to consider that some technologies, some companies actually use their glasses to communicate back and forth with different things. The districts need to have the flexibility to say, this is an electronic communication device, here's the policy for how we're going to be able to use that particular device. So with that, Madam Chair, the Nevada Association of School Boards stands in full support of Senate Bill 444. Thank you.
Pardon me. Good afternoon, Chair Torres Fawcett and members of the committee. My name is Eduardo Martinez, here on behalf of TechNet, representing a national bipartisan network of technology companies from innovative startups to some of the most recognized names in the industry. We are in full support of SB 444, recognizing that today's students have unprecedented access to cell phones and online platforms. While it is important to respect their right to express themselves and access the information, we also acknowledge the responsibility of school districts to maintain a focused and effective learning environment while students are in their care. With so many demands on students' attention, personal electronic devices should not become an added source of distraction in the classroom. Through SB 444, Nevada school districts will have the authority to appropriately limit or allow the use of personal electronic devices during instructional time. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and go to Las Vegas. Seeing none in Las Vegas, I'll go back to Carson City for Dr. Keating.
Thank you, Chair. Brad Keating, for the record, representing the Clark County School District, here in support of Senate Bill 444. Appreciate the time, appreciate the sponsor bringing this bill forward. Over the last school year, we implemented non-locking signal blocking cell phone pouches for all of our students, grades 6 to 12. They've been a huge benefit in the classroom. We look forward to continuing those. We appreciate the policy being brought forth so that there continues to be transparency and that parents and students know and understand the rules behind them, and the why is the most important part. So we thank the bill sponsor for bringing that and wholeheartedly support Senate Bill 444. Thank you.
Thank you. And did you say those were non-locking, non-blocking cell phone pouches?
Chair Brad Keating, for the record. I actually said non-locking signal blocking cell phone pouches. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. AVH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of SB 444?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and go to opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? Seeing none and seeing no one in Las Vegas, AVH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition to SB 444?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
At this time, we'll go ahead and go to neutral. Seeing no one here in Carson nor in Las Vegas, AVH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in neutral?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers at this time.
There's not even no callers just for this. There's no callers at this time. Interestingly enough, the cell phone bill did not bring any callers. But Senator Taylor, please provide closing remarks when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Angie Taylor, for the record. There may be somebody, paging right now, though. So we should have AVH to check that when we're done. But no, with all seriousness, I appreciate Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and the committee for having me here to talk about this bill. I think this bill is certainly timely. It is necessary. It will help improve the learning of our students and the teaching for our faculty members. So thank you so much, and I urge your support.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and close the hearing on SB 444. And I will go ahead and move on to the last item on our agenda, which is public comment. If you're here for public comment, you may provide up to 2 minutes of public comment. Just please make sure that you state and spell your name for the record. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in public comment? Not seeing anyone, and I do not see anyone in Las Vegas. AVH, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. The public lines are open and working. However, there are still no callers at this time.
Thank you. And I know Mr. Lindsley, unfortunately, he's been too busy to speak, but he did want to share with a BC Minute. So Mr. Lindsley, our committee secretary, his first name is BC. That's actually his name. And he told me a fascinating story about he ran away from some type of war thing that was going on while he served in the U.S. military. Yes, he would tell it much better, so feel free to stop by my office. And I guess the way he ran looked so amusing that they called him Big Chicken. And he wanted us to share with that. So thank you, Mr. Lindsley, for allowing us to share your story. He does appreciate it. And I did get his approval before sharing that story on the record, just so everyone knows. He did say, yes, you may share that story. But also we would, of course, like to thank Mr. Lindsley for his service to our country and his service to this committee as well. He does so many, he has so many interesting things. So we'll have more Mr. Lindsley minutes. At this time, members, are there any closing comments? I appreciate your commitment to this committee, and we'll go ahead and adjourn. I do expect a meeting on Thursday. This committee is adjourned.